everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the altar again, and this time we return round four with Lena of Infected Rain. Great to be able to talk with you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I love your background. Look at that.
Oh, thank you.
So beautiful.
Thank you. I designed it myself.
It's very pretty. I love it. And the candles, everything is on point.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's so awesome to have you here. We actually have a lot to catch up on, but first thing is always first. We are releasing The Devil's Dozen coming out very soon. This is basically a stream of a concert. Was there a specific reason why you chose this particular gig to release a live album off of?
Uh, well, yes. Specifically, we did not plan to do this. We only planned to give something to people during the pandemic, really. That was the plan initially. We wanted to do something similar when the band was like 10 years old. And it was not possible because we were insanely busy with touring and preparing with a new album. So we skipped the 10th anniversary. Now, on the band's 13th anniversary, just so happened that we all sat home and we were not going on tour and we didn't know what's going to happen with the world and this craziness was going on the planet. So we just decided to go for it and stay busy, stay creative, and give to people like a recap of 4 albums at the time, a recap of our music, of our story, for the 13th anniversary. That's why the name The Devil's Dozen. And which we did in a big show playlist of 21 songs. Humongous production, something we've never done before. Everything done by us, specifically by the musicians, ideas and everything. Obviously, we hired people to build and bring to life those ideas. But yeah, every single visual, every single thing you see was created from scratch, and it was pretty freaking cool. The feedback from people for this show that was only available to watch online for 8 days at the time was incredible. And it wasn't a live stream. I know a lot of people were doing live streams, but a lot of people were having issues because of the internet, delays and problems. So we decided not to go for a live stream. We pre-filmed everything, recorded everything live, tweaked a couple of things, post-production. And, we had like 6 cameras filming us, so we had to put it together nicely and present it to people to watch and be hope that our music can travel to places we've never even played before. There are so many places on the planet that we haven't visited yet. So that was our goal. Now, we got so much love for it, including not only from the fans, but like the label, the management. Everybody was very pleasantly surprised and super supportive, and everybody insisted on immortalizing it. So we eventually decided that this will become a physical copy. And it's just took a little longer for us to make it happen because we were touring. Finally, it was possible to tour. And like I mentioned before, we do like to do many things by ourselves. So it took a little bit longer. But finally, after a little bit of time, we are doing it. It's going to come out literally in 2 weeks from today. But it's already out there for pre-order for people that have seen it or never seen it before.
Yeah, I think that this is really incredible because like Infected Rain, especially now that I finally got to see you, it's funny that I interviewed you 3 times before finally being able to see you on the Butcher Babies tour. But, watching you play live was such a phenomenal experience. And this Devil's Dozen really brings it wasn't just like a live performance. It has such a cinematic element behind it. Was this always like a vision that you had for Infected Rain, even going back to the Asylum days in a way, or did this vision kind of cultivate as you were making more and more music and getting, more with the
Yeah,
flow?
more like that, I would say. It was mainly the idea of our guitar player Vidic. He's in fact the guy that created all the visuals that were on the screens behind us. So the only thing that I really created on my end was the way I looked for that specific show. Everything else was done by my boys from the band. Yeah, it was just an idea that we came to when we were deciding to do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I've always said that Infected Rain is very much a visual experience too. Like I feel like that there is something that does sort of infect all the senses, not just the ears in a way. So I've always found it fascinating watching The Devil's Dozen, and almost didn't surprise me that there was such a visual like aesthetic behind it, and such like a really a sort of cinematic quality behind it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Now, the last time I spoke with you, I asked you about 10 years celebrating Asylum, but now next year's going to be 10 years of Embrace Eternity. Dancing Alone was my first Infected Rain song. I think that's a very sentimental album. Is there a chance we could maybe be getting a celebration of that if we're not getting a celebration of Asylum?
Well, we did have a celebration of Asylum. You missed it. We did remaster the album. It came out on vinyl. It's something that we didn't have the chance to do it when the album came out because we were independent for 10 years.
Yeah.
And many things when you're independent are either super hard to do or almost impossible. So we did celebrate by having specific merchandise. We had a cool artwork puzzle for it. We had the album released on vinyl, and something else we did for that anniversary. I don't remember now, but hopefully we will have the opportunity and the time to do at least something similar for the second album for sure.
Yeah, because I wanted to know, like, do you look back at that album with a similar mindset that you had back then, or do you think that the meaning of it has evolved over time? Because I think like Dancing Alone, both the original and the acoustic version has its own like emotional entities behind it, despite one of them being acoustic. But with tracks like Hysterical Watches or Sweet Sweet Lies, I feel like do have aged very well. So do you feel the same way about those songs now as you did back then, or do you think
I
that they?
do. I do because I tried to accept the fact that we do change as musicians and as people. And it's not really necessary to change your older song like to what you are now. It's not necessary because it's in a way honoring your past and your views back in the day. But that being said, that doesn't mean that if all of a sudden we decide to like remaster or record certain things eventually, I'm not saying that's the plan, but I'm not saying, like never say never. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't want to confuse anybody here, but for example, Sweet Sweet Lies is a song that we still play nowadays every single show. It's a song that I think we're gonna play forever because it's such a great song to play live. And I haven't changed anything for my part. I think only the boys changed the guitars to 7 strings eventually, but other than that, nothing else changed.
Yeah, like I've always said that art is life and it can grow and it can develop. Even sometimes it could eventually die in a way. But so like I was wondering if maybe like the with every album that you make, Asylum, Embrace Eternity, 86 to now with Ecdysis, like do you feel like the art could evolve with you as you evolve over time, or do you prefer if every album is more or less a snapshot of who you are at that particular time?
Well, if I understand your question
Yeah.
correctly, what you mean is the art that you created in that specific moment in your life is that way, or do
Yeah.
you feel like changing it in time?
Changing it in
Correct?
time, yeah.
That's what I was trying to say. I wouldn't change it if it was me. Like unless we're trying to do something completely different to honor that album and give it a different spin, but like it has to be. like very different. Then yes, like like for example, an entire version of acoustic or orchestra or something, like a completely different view. Then okay, I like it. But like just re-recording it or trying to um make it different, probably I wouldn't. I much rather do something from scratch, to be honest.
Mhm. I've always said too, like your lyrics have aged very well into, like, for instance, one song that I think lyrically is so relevant today is Mold, because when you're saying like hatred is such a waste of time, when especially when you're hating your own fellow human beings in a way. So I've always said that, like, the music, it does very much capture a moment, but I think it also manages to really stay relevant and be with us during those times.
That's why music is so amazing.
Yeah.
All the music.
Yeah.
That's why it's so amazing. It's the most magical vehicle for emotion. And
Definitely.
it's always gonna be like this. Always. No matter what era we live in.
Definitely. And because I know that you write from a very raw and very, sometimes the lyrics that you write are from a very personal spot, Orphan Soul, of course, being a big example of that. Obviously, it's very cathartic to let out your own demons in your music. But does that also maybe make the songwriting process just as deteriorating as well, to confront your own demons in a way?
Um, Songwriting, no, but recording it for the first time, yes. So to me, I find it the most challenging. So when I write things down, I have notes everywhere, literally. Like I have written notes in a notebook, I have notes in my phone, notes on my computer. I write ideas all the time. So when I actually want to develop something and write about a pain or something that is really important or personal or emotional for myself, I write it down easily. It's like a therapy. You put it down. You take it out of here and you make something out of it, right? You talk about it. It's like talking about a problem or a situation, which in my opinion is very important. Now, the most challenging for me is actually the recording process. So that's the very first time you put those words with the emotion in the melody for the song. I've had breakdowns, I've had panic attacks. I had moments where I just needed a break multiple times throughout my career when I was recording certain, you know, painful lyrics. For example, on a previous album, it was Tapophobia. It was definitely, I'm sorry, on the Ecdysis album, it was a very, you know, I don't even have the right words to explain it. I needed tons of takes to go through tapophobia. And then on Ecdysis, Goodbye. Goodbye was just I think we still have it recorded somewhere because there's a very repetitive part in the song where I just had to like add some emotion, and I think we probably still have the tracks where I just burst into tears and I can't finish the song. I just couldn't. It took me a while to finish it. Because it's when you confront it from the first time, it's like realizing the truth for the first time, almost. Like obviously it's not exactly what it is because you knew the truth, you wrote about it, or you knew this pain, you wrote about it, you've been through it, you wrote about it, maybe you're still going through it and that's why it's so painful. you know Now when you perform them live, it's also not very easy. It's pretty challenging because, like you said, it's almost like fire with fire. It is healing but also very difficult. Also happened on stage that I couldn't finish the song, like a song, or I would start crying, or like it happens. We are human beings. It just that happens, especially when you write about your own life, and no matter what you decide to write about, it's your personal. It comes from here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I could tell. I mean, the first time I heard Infected Rain, I could just tell that you're writing from a very emotional place, that and not to say that it's wrong when people, write a concept album or, like use like
Absolutely not.
external sources, but I could definitely tell that you write from a very internal place that is I would say sometimes very traumatizing for people to write about. And you led me perfectly into the next question, actually, because with your latest album being Ecdysis, which the definition of that is shedding one's skin. Now, I don't know if shedding one's skin is really referring to, if you're saying it very literally, it's just referring to like a reptile in a way, like that's what, or like I know that's a very like animalistic thing on how they shed their skin during a new season. But I am wondering, was the making of this album, were you shedding a part of your skin that,
It
or
was more, it was a little bit more complex than that because really what that word means is a metamorphosis. It's transition from one life form to another. It can be a cocoon becoming a butterfly. It can be the shed of the skin of a reptile. It can be so many things that happen, in nature. Now, that was definitely a reference to the world we were living in and all the changes we had to face as people, as human beings, as society, as a nation. Because of COVID, because of all the riots and the wars and everything that was happening, and it's still happening. People cannot learn from their own mistakes and be kinder to each other. And that's pretty much what we were trying to show because it came out like right in that time.
Mhm. Well, because and that's very fascinating that you mentioned that as well because I feel like we as humans, the only constant is change in a way, and I think I wasn't there, with every minute of Infected Rain, but I think it's fair to say that you've all changed a lot from Asylum to now, especially coming from Moldova, and you know, uh, and so much has happened from there that I'd imagine that this, if there was sort of like a self-portrait representation of Ecdysis as well.
Yeah, both, for sure. Definitely both, yeah.
Yep. Now, I know you write from a very emotional place, but I think instrumentally too, it's a force to be reckoned with. From the works and the guitars to the rhythmic elements of Infected Rain. Do all of you need to be feeling emotionally in the same place when writing music together to make the song sound consistent, or could both of all of you being in your different headspaces kind of
Absolutely. I
allow?
think this is what makes it even more interesting is that everybody is kind of putting their own part of like inner world of or how they feel at the moment. So our main songwriter is Vidic, the guitar player, and he gets a lot also from Eugene, the drummer, as well. But pretty much everybody brings a little bit in the process of recording and writing and composing. So I feel like this is why I'm a big fan of Infected Rain because of how the energy and the state of mind or state of soul, if we can call it that way, of of different people can create something so unique like together. So nobody knows what the lyrics are going to be about when they write music. I don't even know when they send me the song, for example. I don't even know which lyrics I'm going to apply because I just write all the time. I have plenty ideas and plenty like finished ones already. And when I listen to the song a couple of times, I realize what is the mood here? Okay, do I want to talk about something melancholic? Do I want to talk about pain here? Do I want to go like aggressive about like a more global problem? It's in the end, it's me giving it that last direction. I wouldn't say because I'm applying the lyrics. And that is how I apply the lyrics is by listening multiple times to the instrumental and understanding what does it make me feel. Does it make me feel like I want to dance? Okay, then I want to add more playful type of lyrics and apply more playful type of melodies for vocals and so on. We can talk about this forever with all the emotions
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to discussing emotions, I've interviewed thousands of artists at this point, but I feel like you master the art of emotions in a way. I feel like it's one thing to be able to be a great singer, and that's a talent within itself, but there is also the art of mastering emotions. I've always said that when emotion is like your main source in a way, sometimes artists can become victims of their own product meaning like it could be consuming, that they could succumb to madness in the artistic process. So I
Yeah.
think the way that you're able to master that is actually truly inspirational for
Thank you.
not just your listeners, but aspiring artists as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, of course. And I have two more questions for you. But when you, being that you do write from multiple places, like a song like the Earth Mantra, I think is very, it's very much about how we destroy our own world around us. And from what you mentioned about Ecdysis as well, depending on the subject matter that you're singing about, personal or external, does it hit you differently when you are singing it? Does it resonate with you differently, or does it feel like you're approaching it from a different mind frame?
Not really, because it's still personal. When I wrote the Mantra, is my personal perspective on what's happening with the planet. It's been a path that I've been trying to perfect in my own life, in my personal life, with what I'm doing and how I'm consuming things and how much I'm consuming and what I'm using, what I'm overusing, the control of certain things, and the way I eat, the way I live my life. Really, a lot of people that don't know me that close, and they find out about it, they're like, wait, so how are you managing it? Yeah, I have a device that makes compost for my trees. I don't throw everything away. I reuse plastic until it has so many holes that it's not usable anymore, if I ever use plastic myself, or like with what we eat or with what we do when we are around. And like I go hiking and I collect other people's trash. Like it is personal. Everything I speak about, even if it's a global theme, a global problem, it's something that has been bothering me or has been come to my attention and I got curious about. Or let's say sometimes it's not like a global problem, but it's like a mental thing that I see everybody's going through, or a new thing I'm encountering uh, through a loved one, as something that I never even knew how serious, that I only heard about it. So everything I write is personal, everything, even if it's not just about, you know, just feelings, it's about more global themes. It's still something I've been, studying or just trying to do something about it. Um, I, yeah, pretty much that's all I wanted to say. It's always personal, no matter what I'm writing about.
The painter Henry Matisse said that every painting is a self-portrait. Have you ever, I don't know if you've ever taken this approach, but have you ever thought about like taking like what a band like Mastodon has done in a way where like they write like about a story, or like Ahab, your label mates Ahab, how they write, they take literature and just transform it into a metal album. Has that ever been something that maybe you thought about doing? I'm actually curious to see how you would do that.
No, not really. I do, however, often get inspired by books I read and or movies I watch and or stories I've heard, people that are surrounding me. I get inspired like that a lot, for sure. Like I try my best to read as much as time really gives me the opportunity to do so. And oh my god, people are just so talented from the beginning of the days, from the beginning of when it was possible to write, to read and write, to create something. People, even when there was no internet, no this the source of books was this limited, and everybody was trying to save books by handwriting books, like copies of books. It's beautiful, and I think that gives me a lot of like ideas and material to think about and maybe even write about.
It's incredible, and you're right. A teacher told me one time that we as humans, we're actually, it's not in our nature to have the ability to read and write. Like actually, people who have a hard time reading and writing, it means that they're closer to the human origin in a way, because that's, I've always said that the first form of artificial intelligence was when we were able to take knowledge, transcribe it somewhere, and pass it on to a generation. So it's really great to hear you mention that. Every time I think that humanity is the worst thing in the world, I see the very talented people that we've had throughout our history, and it makes me feel somewhat better about humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And the final question I wanted to ask you is you know, I've had the privilege of not only meeting you on the Butcher Babies tour that you did, but I had the privilege of finally meeting some of your very dedicated fans as well. And I was talking with your fans, and they were telling me how they interpreted your music and how it resonated with them. So when a fan brings their own interpretation to their music, does that add another layer of context to the material and another layer of meaning to it?
It adds more value to it, in my opinion, because knowing that so many people can relate to you is already amazing. It's already like something, it's almost like you accomplished something without even trying too hard to accomplish something, because all you did is write about your own fears and problems and emotions, right? But on top of it, when somebody like tries to dig deeper and add meaning to it more than you even thought there could be, it is magical, because it's also, it shows me that how beautiful people can be, and especially how diverse um, humans inner world can be. So it's very interesting for me often, especially when I see certain like reactions on certain like music videos that come out, and they actually talk about the lyrics and they try to interpret the meaning. I'm very curious to watch those videos. Like I love seeing other people's interpretations often. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about art is that just when you bring it in, that's just the beginning of its life cycle, and then you see how much it can grow just on how people experience it.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for always coming
Thank
back
you.
on the show. Is there just anything else with Infected Rain that you'd like to promote with the release of Devil's Dozen? Can we be expecting any tours anytime soon? If you're allowed to say, of course, since this will be uploaded by midnight.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, the Devil's Dozen is out there for pre-order. It comes out in 2 weeks, together with another live clip, another song from it that is gonna be published separately on the label's YouTube channel for you to watch and rewatch. Um, yeah, and we just announced recently a very big European tour in the summer that will include around 12 countries or more. And yeah, festivals and club shows are waiting for you guys to show up.
Oh,
So yeah, we're working on confirming a really cool tour in autumn this year, but I cannot tell you more about it just yet. Hopefully very soon though.
yeah.
We are also working on a new album. New material is coming out soon. With Infected Rain and Death Dealer Union, which is a new band I've joined last year, which is signed also with Napalm Records. And our first album comes out this year, and we already filmed 4 music videos that will slowly come out for you, and probably will film some more as well.
Yep, and I'll probably be interviewing you for that as well. But
Yeah.
thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Lena of Infected Rain. Check out Ecdysis out now, as well as The Devil's Dozen. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.